Welcome into this edition of Blue Sky Live. Chase Parham, Neal McCready, he's in the Clark Ford studio, and we are 2 days away from Ole Miss debuting in the 2025 SEC tournament. They will play the winner of South Carolina and Arkansas. That coming up at noon on Thursday. South Carolina and Arkansas Wednesday at noon. So we're just kind of hanging out. We're talking this morning about that, some baseball, some basketball. We got more bracket projections and plenty more things coming up on a show brought to you every day by Blue Sky locations throughout the state of Mississippi, up and down I-55, throughout North Mississippi as well. You know about Sweet Daddy's locations too. You get catering, you get ribs, you get pulled pork, you get sides, you get plenty of big stuff ready for your catering, your event, your parties, and more there with Sweet Daddy's and Blue Sky. Lunch special is $5.69. And again, Mr. McCready is in the Clark Ford studio before heading to Nashville.
I am Clark Ford's in Amory, Mississippi, 662-257-1900. Don't forget, if you're at rebelgrove.com, you can check out the Clark Ford special of the week. That's at rebelgrove.com, pinned at the top of the message board. If you are shopping for a Ford vehicle, get in touch with Corey Clark, 662-257-1900. Call that number, ask for Corey. Tell Corey what Ford product you're looking for. He'll send you a quote within 15 minutes in business hours. Right to the bottom line. No hassle, no haggle. You get your quote, and the rest is up to you. You can shop that quote around. You can do what I've done, what I recommend that you do, and that's hop in a Clark Ford today. 662-257-1900. Guest join MPW on the Campbell Clinic hotline. From fractures and sports injuries to complex spine and limb conditions, the pediatric orthopedic physicians at Campbell Clinic in Oxford are the only specialized pediatric orthopedic team in North Mississippi, providing expert care for growing bodies. Visit campbellclinicoxford.com to schedule an appointment or call 901-759-3111.
Let's take one more quick second before we get started to tell you about Factor. If you're ready to optimize your nutrition this year, they have chef-made gourmet meals that make eating well easy. They're dietitian approved, ready to heat and eat in 2 minutes, so you can feel right, feel great, no matter what life throws at you with 40 options across 8 dietary preferences. The menu each week, it's easy to pick. Meals tailored to your goals, everything from Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, Keto, and plenty more. Factor can help you feel your best all day long with wholesome smoothies, breakfast, grab-and-go snacks, and more add-ons. Eat smart with Factor. That's factormeals.com/factorpodcast. Use code FactorPodcast to get 50% off your first box plus free shipping. It's code FactorPodcast at factormeals.com/factorpodcast. 50% off plus free shipping your first box. Yeah, I'm seeing all the daylight savings time. We had to go early for a couple different reasons. I'm an hour ahead, Neal. It's got a busy day before embarking here for too long as well. And I'll give you one, Neal. You know, I made a choice on the podcast last week with what I thought and an opinion that I've completely reversed on in the last week, and that's daylight saving time. We have switched, and I voted on the board that I was fully for daylight savings time. I told you I was all about the night and the daylight and everything else. And like over the last 5 days, I think that it showed that maybe I've even matured a little bit. I fought through it, and I went, nope, standard time all year round is where I would follow this. Completely and utterly with you now. I was wrong last week.
Welcome home. So, I mean, I could go, told you so, but I'm not going to do that. Welcome home. Listen, yesterday we left Oklahoma City at 6:30 in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
It was pitch black. It's pitch black. So Oklahoma City's a growing city. Shout out to OKC. I love it more every time I go. But there's a lot of traffic. Oklahoma City is literally right off the interstate, like most cities. It's right there. And there's a lot of people getting to different places. They're coming in from different directions. And all the headlights and stuff at that hour is disconcerting when you're driving a vehicle. And I kind of generally knew where I was going. I mean, I had navigation. I was good. But I'm maneuvering around a little. And it's 6:30 in the morning. So all of those people are having to drive to work in the dark so that it can still be light at 8 something? Is that, I mean, explain the trade to me. That makes sense.
Because instead of like 8:15, 8:30, we get 7:15, 7:30, something like that in July. PM.
Yeah, I mean, if you need sunshine to enjoy a beer on your back patio, that's on you.
I was even thinking, and this is this is one of those deals where you won't get until kids get a little older. I thought, kind of the rule is kids come inside when it gets dark, and you kind of get on with it, especially in the summer or whatnot. And I thought, God, it'd be really nice if a kid came in an hour earlier in June or July. Like, go ahead and get the night going a little bit. Don't have to be out till 8:45. Don't want to fight about it.
But there's just
it's better for our circadian rhythms too.
100. That's been proven scientifically. And now we go to this daylight savings time for 8 months, basically. And then we'll flip it. I don't know. Daylight savings time is given every advantage in the world in the election, and it still should lose. Yeah, I've been on this team for a long time, and so
you can debate his qualifications or whether you want to believe him or not. Who's the sleep expert? Matthew Walker, isn't that his name? He's on a lot of the podcasts and stuff a lot of times. I think it's Matthew Walker. He says, and again, I have no idea. He says that when daylight savings time comes and you have that adjustment, there are medical studies out there that heart attacks go up 24%. And that when standard time kicks back in, heart attacks go down 21%. Again, I have no idea, but that's what he said on Joe Rogan's podcast. And he knows more about sleep than I know, but that's what he said.
As Drew says in the thread, this was about agriculture 100 years ago. Made sense. More time in the fields to cultivate the crop.
Sure.
Cool. We're no longer really doing that. Everything's automated. We've advanced past that. We no longer need that. Mm-hmm. Now we're doing it so people can have happy hour. That's literally it. That's it.
You get a little more time for the golf round at night. That's about it. Yeah.
Frankly,
that's where we are.
And frankly, in the deep South, we should be totally against it, because if the sun went down an hour earlier, our nights, which are brutal sometimes in July and August, and maybe would
temperatures and energy cost, yes,
would cool a little bit. Energy costs would drop a little bit. It would make sense, but no. People.
That's one of the reasons why Arizona is not on daylight. They stay year round on standard. And it's because that extra hour of energy cost in the freaking desert would have a very adverse effect, not just in a 1/24, but much more than that, given what it is.
Yeah.
So that's one of the reasons.
This is just not complicated, but man, team daylight savings time, they will fight you. They will fight, but they will fight you on recreational things. It's more time for golf. It's
I know.
Again, it's happy hour. I mean, I'll grant you the golf. I guess you need light to golf. You don't require a bright sunshine to sit on your back patio or sit by your pool and have a beer. You don't. Ask me how I know.
I've grown to kind of like the nighttime outside, frankly. Kind of dark, kind of peaceful.
Just, like I said, cool. Welcome home.
Yeah, I know. So did you follow Kentucky and Missouri in real time that gave you a noon tip on Thursday? I texted you after it was over. I had not seen a score until I got to baseball. And at that point, I think Kentucky was up 9 with about 3:30 to go, something like that. So I knew you were in pretty good shape, but were you following in real time?
I was following in real time. I was in my room in OKC, and the boys wanted to go to lunch. And so I told them to come to my room, and Kentucky had built a 10-point lead. And I was in the room chanting CATS, 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 and Go Big Blue, which was confusing to Aka until I explained to him that I could get.
It was about you.
It's totally about me. And he said, well, what if Ole Miss wins? And I said, well, they're not going to, but if they do, we'll cross that bridge when they get there. But I can't have noon if Missouri wins. And then Missouri started coming back, and I told them, guys, we're not leaving until this is over. And so the Big Blue Nation pulled it off, and we went and we found this phenomenal ramen place. I can't remember the name of it. It was like Odoro or something. I can't remember the name. It was amazing. In OKC, we did that, and then came back, and I met my brother and his sister. My brother and my sister-in-law, I should say, my brother and his wife at
Yes.
the hotel, and we saw the Ole Miss score. At one point, Ole Miss was only down like 3 or 4, and I was like, "Oh, I might have to scramble here." And then it turned into what I thought it would be, and I was like, I don't have to scramble. And so, yes, I know it's not a win for fans, but sometimes it's a win.
It
for
wasn't about fans. It was about Neal.
Wasn't about all of you. It was about me.
And to you guys, look, it's like you're not changing much either way. I mean, this is going to be the story for today's podcast: is that go to Nashville, have fun, whether you're there 1, 2, 3, 4, 7 days, whatever you're there. Just have a nice time and go home and know that your seed line is pretty much set. You're good. You're going to get a bid. You're going to not have to deal with Dayton or any of that crap. You're going to wear a white jersey the first day, and you're gold. Worry about the matchup. Don't worry about the result in Nashville. Okay, that's my TED talk for today.
I'm not convinced that there's a single outcome. I guess there's two extremes. I mean, if you told me
win the tournament, lose to South Carolina,
and even the second one, like the losing to South Carolina thing, like what would that mean? I think it would eliminate any chance of a 5. But I know Jerry Palm disagrees, but I don't think they're in the 5 range anyway. I think they're
it feels 6, 7.
I think they're a 6 or a 7, and I have a firm belief on this. And I've been told by people that I'm right, people who've been on the committee before. They get in that room and they can't wait till Saturday or Sunday to start the bracket. The bracket has to start being fleshed out because you then have to be in a position to move people if you need to. And Ole Miss feels like one of those teams that about sometime Thursday, they go, okay, Ole Miss, they're a 6, they're a 7, whatever they determine. Let's put them in that slot. And then they just leave them there. Because I don't know what Ole Miss can do to really move up. I mean, I guess if you said, okay, Ole Miss beat Arkansas, and I'm going with old nets, so I might be wrong. Arkansas's net on Sunday was a 39. So in this world, they would have beaten South Carolina tomorrow, which probably leaves their net right at about 39. So let's say you beat Arkansas with the 39 net. Ole Miss's net's what, 28? Maybe your net goes up to 27. That's about it. It's not jumping any more than that because everybody else playing on neutral floors too. And then on Friday, you beat 2 Auburn. Now your net jumps to like 24. So maybe now instead of being a 7, you're a 6. Sure. And then on Saturday, you would play Tennessee and say you beat Tennessee and their net's like 4 or 5. I mean, okay. Sure. At that point, yeah. I mean, literally in that scenario, the highest you're getting is a 5. And I can hear people going, well, a 5 is better than a 7. Sure. In a world where South Carolina beats Arkansas, South Carolina's net was 88, so they would beat 39 on a neutral. They would jump somewhere into the mid-80s. Then you lose to South Carolina. Your net goes from 28 to like 31. You're just a 7 at that point. I don't think they can fall worse than 7.
Yeah, I don't either. I mean, you and I talked about it yesterday just on the phone. And I mean, I'm looking here in the question, so I'll answer it as we're discussing this. I think most teams are fairly locked in. I don't think I think history has shown us that in conference tournaments, you might move a seed line here or there, but that is it at most. And I think those are even extreme. Yeah, I think Texas and potentially Oklahoma have games that are very meaningful for their situation. And honestly, I'm not even sure Oklahoma does. Neal, you may disagree, but I mean, I'm looking at the schedule here. We'll go over it real quick. Noon, South Carolina, Arkansas. 2:30, Texas, Vanderbilt. 6 o'clock, LSU, Mississippi State. And then 8:30, Oklahoma and Georgia. Lenardi has Texas out right now. I do think they likely have to beat Vanderbilt. I do. I think they're in deep trouble. I think they probably have to beat Vanderbilt, and we'll see what happens. But Oklahoma is like the third team avoiding a bye right now with Lenardi. They play Georgia, who has a good net, is firmly in the tournament in the nightcap. I think the Sooners, even with their 6-12 record, Neal, I think they're in right
I
now,
do too.
no matter what they do on Wednesday.
I do too, because if you look at their resume and take the conference record out, and that's what they do in the room, I think their resume gets
It
them in.
doesn't exist.
I think their resume gets them in, and so I tend to agree with Texas. Although if you told me Texas is in one of the play-ins in Dayton, I would totally buy it. That gives them a big brand to put in Dayton on Tuesday or Wednesday of next week. But yeah, other than that, I mean, LSU, South Carolina have to win the tournament to get in. No suspense there. I guess there's some suspense with Texas, maybe a little with Oklahoma. There's none with anybody else. Everybody else is in. And those teams, man, it just feels like they're going to start slotting. You can't wait for the tournament to shake out. And then, hey, okay, now on Saturday we're going to start moving things around. That gets hectic because they have some matchup guidelines that they are required to follow. So it's not just as simple as, all right, hey, Sunday, 3:00. I guess let's put our beers down, fellas. Let's throw this thing together real quick. It doesn't really work like that. They've got to start slotting things and make sure that common opponents and blah, blah, blah. They've got stuff that they have to do. And it just feels like there's a whole bunch of SEC teams that are going to get slotted. And unless that something extreme happens, that's where they're slotted.
They make a good point, too, in the stream that Nashville not upset by the way the schedule works out. You get Kentucky in the late game on Thursday night. So they get all the crowd and whatever. They're going to be there at 9:00 for a tip.
Who does
Thursday
Kentucky play?
against whoever they end up playing.
So they'll play the Oklahoma, Georgia.
They play the winner of Oklahoma. Correct. Yes.
Yeah.
That's correct.
If you're out and about on Thursday night, late, just in case if you see that score develop,
late.
That will be the ticket, because not only will you get upset Kentucky fan, but you'll get upset, a little tipsy, pissed off Kentucky fan. Don't wear another school's colors. Just be neutral. Express your disappointment and ask, hey, are you going to use your tickets the rest of the tournament? You might literally get them for free at 11:30 at night.
Who do you think out of that first day, those 8 teams, has the best chance to be around on Friday?
Well, I would say
South Carolina, Arkansas versus Ole Miss.
I mean, there's a
A&M plays.
Let's take them one at a time. I mean, South Carolina, they're not getting there.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, there's a world where Arkansas beats Ole Miss. I think Ole Miss is favored. I think Ole Miss would win 6 out of 10 times. The one thing Arkansas has that gives Ole Miss fits is they have some talented bigs. Their team is completely different than it was when they played in January because Flan's gone, Thirou's gone. They've now played with or Adu. I never can remember what the kid's name is. Thiero Adu or Adu Thiero, one or the other. Those two are out. They do a lot more through the post now with the big Z, whatever his name is, the kid from Kentucky, the kid that transferred from Tennessee at their Jonas Adu. He's a fairly skilled big. He's going to give Ole Miss some problems. And then, they have found some shooters, and they're playing the young kids, Knox and what's the other kid's name? I can't think of it. It doesn't matter. A couple of their young guards have kind of matured a little bit as the season's gone on. So I mean, there's a world where Arkansas beats Ole Miss and is playing on Friday. Who are the other ones?
So you get A&M. They are playing the winner of Texas and Vanderbilt.
I like A&M against both of those teams. Texas is just, they faded. I mean, there's a world where Vanderbilt gets there, but I like A&M getting to Friday. I mean, A&M surviving whoever they get.
Is Rodney Terry in a ton of trouble? What's going on there? Because, I mean,
Should be.
we keep talking about it. You got Trey Johnson. I know he was terrible against Oklahoma, but that's an NBA dude. He's elite. We've been talking all year about how they get off the bus and they got linked. And, I mean, they have more talent than at least half of the SEC. And they're 6-12 in the league. And to me, it falls almost completely on Terry.
Yeah, I agree. He's done a bad job. In a league full of really good coaches, he's done a bad job. And probably that's revelatory in the fact that that team, as athletic as it looks, with an NBA player in the backcourt, is 6-12.
It's never been more imperative to have a quality coach. I mean, it's always imperative. I get that that's a dumb statement in a way, but in this league today with this many coaches, you will get completely eaten alive. You'll get exposed.
Yes.
Because the league is so good from a coach standpoint, 1 through 16, that if you have a weak link, you're done. That's it, and you're going to go 6-12 even with the talent you have. There's just no free night from a coaching standpoint.
It's also staffs. It's coaching staffs. There's
fair, yeah.
You know, it's It's not even development. It's having that advanced scouting guy who is prepared for a team ahead of time. You know, I mean, there've been some nights where Texas doesn't look prepared. And you can see, you see the opposite of that with some of the other teams in the league. Like, I mean, shout out to Mike White, the job that Georgia did late. Shout out to Porter Moser winning some big games, even after his team lost some excruciating games. Like that week where they lost a late shot game to Kentucky, followed by a late shot game to Ole Miss, and they still bounce back and play well. That's commendable. Shout out to John Calipari. They started out 0-5 in the league. They finished 8-10. I mean, do the math. They went 8-5 down the stretch and absorbing 2 injuries to first-round draft picks. I mean, that's a phenomenal job. Todd Golden, all the distractions and everything else there, and they had some injuries, and they just rolled. Nate Oates in the final week of the season, after they'd lost some painful games, they still go to Auburn and win. No, listen.
Hell of a basketball game, by the way.
Yeah,
hell of a basketball game.
It's a brutal league, and I think you have to be a fairly elite coach to survive it, and I don't think he's that.
I don't know if there's a doubt that he's one of the 2 or 3 worst coaches in the league. It might be the worst. Given the resources, talent, and again, staff. It's not all about one person, but who you put there, who you put together, and what that looks like. Third game of the day on Wednesday and Thursday, LSU Mississippi State, and that winner will face the Missouri Tigers. I mean,
I wouldn't mind a flyer on State.
Yeah,
a lot of it. I mean, and this is becoming a pet peeve of mine. Watching him play, Hubbard, the kick out on every shot. I mean, you're tasked as a defender to leave a place for the shooter to land. But with Hubbard, he goes up in the air and he does all these wild kicks. He's clearly searching for contact.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he got a call in the Arkansas game the other day where the Arkansas kid was jumping away from him and landed 2-3 feet from him, and Hubbard got the foul because he kicked him. And I'm like, you can't call that. And then he did it again, and it kind of didn't get called, which told you that Calipari raised hell about it. Was like, you really should look at the replay, for God's sake. But you got to get some consistency there. But they're good enough to make a little run. But shoot, man, they could lose to LSU on Wednesday.
They could.
They're enigmatic. I was wrong on them. I thought early in the season they had a chance to be a really special team, and I kind of no longer think that.
I don't like watching them play. There's something about them that's just sort of disjointed for me, and I don't like watching them play. And most of the league I kind of like in different ways.
They should be better than they are. They have some good players, but offensively, I think they start looking for Hubbard way too much. It stops other guys. Like, I think Melendez is a better offensive player. I kind of think they should go to Kugel more. I think they should let Matthews be more of an offensive player, but and every once in a while, Hubbard will get red hot and he'll make some shot from 35 feet, and you're like, oh, see? But there's a lot of bad shots from him. I just don't like his game. I like the kid. I like his dad. I've met them. They're nice people. This is not a criticism of him in any personal level at all. I just don't like his game.
Oklahoma and Georgia winner plays Kentucky on Thursday night.
Oh, I think either one of those teams could beat Kentucky.
I do too.
Nah, Kentucky could beat either one of those teams. Kentucky finished the season pretty well. And that was a big win for them to go to Missouri and win on senior day and all that stuff. And then look, Thursday's going to be a lot of fun. Thursday's going to be a lot of fun. Friday's going to be a lot of fun. And I think fun's the key word. I think people are going to do, if like you said earlier, if you're watching these quarterfinal games on Friday and doing anything other than, hey, this is fun basketball, that's on you.
Grab a beer, grab whatever you got, and just sit back, watch some basketball, enjoy it, move on with your day.
I don't think by Friday the games are going to mean anything.
Friday's the most low stress day in the world for a fan. Just watch some baskball.
Because if you're Texas or Oklahoma and you're still in it on Friday, you're in. Yes. And so quit sweating it. It doesn't matter. Like if you're an Ole Miss fan and you lose to Auburn by 15 on Friday at noon, it's cool.
Who cares?
I mean, I'm not sure it matters at all.
Go home, have a safe trip back, and get ready for Sunday. I mean, it's the tournament equivalent of what we were telling you guys to do in Gainesville on Saturday. Because in Gainesville on Saturday, it's a schedule loss. It's the worst team you could have played in the worst situation. You lost the game by 19 or whatever it was. Who cares? All right, get on the bus, go home. Not affecting you in any way.
I was proud of the RebelGrove.com message board, by the way.
They handled it awesome on Saturday.
I did not see it until late, but there did not appear to be more than one or two people getting pissed off on a game that went exactly like I kind of figured it would. I mean, literally, if you'd said, how do you think that game's going to go? I would have said, well, Ole Miss will play with them for a while, and then Florida will pull away, and Ole Miss will say, you know what, let's get out of here, and Florida will roll it up a little bit because that's kind of how Golden is, and then that'll be that. No biggie.
A couple questions in the thread. Grind, I don't know. I think Texas is potentially in trouble. I mean, I think Neal's a little higher on them than I am just from that standpoint. But when you look at kind of where they're situating and when you look at where everything's sitting, I just think they're in a weird spot. I think Oklahoma's in. I think it's possible Oklahoma's already in no matter what, as I said. And then, I think Ole Miss's ceiling is a 5. I think no matter what they do in the world, even winning the thing, I think their ceiling is a 5. I saw some sort of run.
I don't think they could get to a 4. I don't think winning the tournament gets them to a 4. Because at some point, again, the committee can't wait till Sunday afternoon at 3:00 to move teams around. They're not going to. They've got to get all that stuff to the network so they can do their graphics. The whole we wait till the last second is bullshit. It doesn't happen.
Yeah, no, you don't.
So I don't. If Ole Miss is playing on Sunday, I think their seeding would just be set in stone.
And we'll go ahead and get ahead of this a little bit for next week because we'll talk a ton of tournament next week once we see the bracket on Sunday and we get going. Matchup matters more than seed. Getting the right draw as a 7 is a bigger deal than getting a 6 with a crap draw. You want the draw. You don't care about the number next to your name as much as you do who you're playing in the first 2 rounds. Also, don't look past the first 2 rounds. I'm not going to, at some point you got to play great teams. It is what it is. Don't go, oh, well, that's a bad draw because I get this team in the Sweet 16. No, shut up. It's not the play here. Come on.
And look, for this team, making the Sweet 16 is national championship stuff. I mean, I'm sorry, but it is. And Chris Beard's not going to say that, nor should he. But I'll say it. I mean,
it's just not just icing and gravy, but the best icing and gravy and everything at that point. I mean, it's beyond. I mean, you're a glutton with the extras.
I think I wrote this on 10 Weekend Thoughts. I was kind of scrambling to throw that together, but it's not fair to move the goalpost now. You don't move the goalpost once the game has started.
Mm-hmm.
And when the game started, the goalposts were right here. Make the tournament. I think 8 and 10 was the goal. They exceeded that by 2 wins. I think if I had said before the season, and all I'd said to you was they go 10 and 8 in the league, and they're a 6 or a 7 seed in the NCAA tournament, everybody would have signed up. So from here on out, it should just kind of be fun. And listen, this is a team. It's why if I'm them, I kind of want to play Arkansas on Thursday. I want to play a talented team. It's a tournament team that has some skill with their bigs, because it gives me one more dress rehearsal to figure that out. In case
Neutral
that's
site, crowd, dress rehearsal, whole deal. You get to simulate a little bit on that day.
in case I get to play, like if I play South Carolina, I'm going to play a team with nothing to lose and their hair on fire. Okay. If I play Arkansas, I'm playing a team that's already in the tournament and they're in. They could lose to South Carolina and they're still in. They're in the tournament. They're not going to treat the tournament like it's. I mean, Calipari said it on the record yesterday. I don't know if that's good or bad to say it out loud, but he said it. They're not going to play with their hair on fire, but they've got some skilled bigs who can give you problems. And you might run into that team in the tournament in the first round. You might play if you're a 6, you might play an 11. If you're a 7, you might play a 10. That's kind of built around a couple of bigs who have some skill. And you need to figure that out. And for the most part, they've started figuring that out. Florida's a different exception because they're a different level of skilled bigs. But Arkansas would probably provide Ole Miss with a really good dress rehearsal one way or the other.
Yes, you are not playing Florida in the first 2 rounds.
No.
So you're
No. If you play a team in the tournament that looks like Florida, you made the Sweet 16.
You did. Yeah. Bracketology does have 13 SEC teams in the bracket. This was updated at 2 a.m. this morning from Joe Lenardi. Auburn a 1, Memphis an 8. Just looking at Ole Miss opponents or SEC teams. Vanderbilt an 11. So they've slid down a line there, but Vanderbilt an 11. They have them against Illinois at 6. A&M a 3. And we've talked about this a little bit. It's a good moment to discuss this. A lot of people have A&M at 2. But if you have them as a 3, it's opening up some more scheduling possibilities to try to avoid those regular season matchups in the second round. Like they do have some obligations from those standpoints in regular seasons. So you could see some line shifts one way or the other, one spot, simply to avoid certain matchups or to not stockpile all of one conference in not just the regions, because you're going to have at least 3 SEC teams probably in every region. But setting up those next to each other lines, you can make one change and kind of alter that. And I think Texas A&M and Kentucky are 2 kind of optimal teams to go 2, 3, 3, 4, and sort of move that as you need and do what you need to do with them. So just
that's going to happen. I'm trying to think. So you got a bunch of teams at the top, and then you've got a bunch of teams like Arkansas, Oklahoma.
8 to 10, 11. Yeah.
Like Georgia, Ole Miss, they're sort of in a mix by themselves. They might get slotted where they're supposed to, but I mean they do that, and you have supposedly it is unavoidable. Sometimes you'll have a team that's on the 6 line and it just doesn't work from a bracket standpoint, and they have to shift them to 7 or up to 5 to make it work. I could see that happening with a team like Ole Miss or a team like Georgia, who are about basically have the same resume. Mississippi State to some degree with their net. They're all kind of in the same area.
Yeah, they have Vandy at 11. They have A&M at 3. They have Missouri at 7. They have Florida at 1. That's pretty locked in. Purdue at 4. They beat Ole Miss there in that early game in the non-league. They have Kentucky at 3. I could see them shifting to a 4 if necessary. They have Ole Miss at 7, playing Utah State in the first round, and then a 2:15 game of Texas Tech and Bryant.
I got to tell you, twice I saw the word Wichita on the signs in Oklahoma City, and I thought that's where I'm headed.
Really? Did you?
Had a feeling. So if that ends, if on Sunday Ole Miss ends up in Wichita, just remember your boy felt that. I was driving, and there was Wichita's like 2.5 hours from OKC, and there was I don't know, whatever road that was, 30 or whatever. This is the ramp to go to.
So that's going to be a drive?
I think Wichita's a drive.
Okay.
Wichita,
so your prediction is Wichita?
Wichita, Lexington's a drive.
Yeah, of course.
I think everything else is a flight. The problem with, like, from a tournament standpoint, no one cares, but we started off the show with it was about me, so this part's about me. The problem with the tournament, booking it, like let's say Ole Miss plays on Thursday. If you fly, you have to book your return flight for Sunday. because you have to. There's a chance they win. They're going to be wearing a home uniform. If they lose, you're scrambling to try to get on a flight. Flights are weird now. Like all the flights are full and stuff. Spring break, all that. If they for example, when Ole Miss played in Columbia and they played the early game and they lost, I had not intended to check out, and it hit me. I'm like, you know what? I could get home today.
Yeah.
And I did. I went back. I finished my work, went back to the hotel, threw my stuff together, took off, and got back to Oxford at like 1 a.m.
I don't know why. Maybe it's because Ole Miss has been there multiple times. I think you're going to Milwaukee, and I'm sorry.
It's okay.
My guess is Milwaukee.
I like Milwaukee. It's a cool town.
Okay.
Cool town.
You were able to think about going home in Columbia in like the 10 minutes into the game because Oklahoma just beat the hell out of them, and that was kind of over. And
no, you joke, but in all seriousness,
Yeah.
I started writing my column. I was like, you know what? Because that game started at 11 a.m.
It did.
And I started thinking, you know, you could be out of here by 2:30.
Mm-hmm.
Still doing good work. I don't even entertain the whole no one's reading this, because that's fast becoming a thing with you people, by the way. Nobody if they win, everybody reads it. If they lose, no one reads it, which makes budget planning difficult.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, in Columbia, the decision was made. That game was pretty obviously going Oklahoma's way. And I thought, you can get a lot of your writing done now. And so I banged away the rest of that game, and I was pretty set. I got out of there pretty quick. I was on the road. The second game, the game after the Ole Miss Oklahoma game, was not even to halftime yet when I was on the road.
Question the stream. I believe Auburn has lost the number 1 overall seed with a loss on Saturday. No, I think they're locked into the number 1 overall seed. Lenardi was so strong about it, even after the loss to Alabama. I think he said that Auburn had the best regular season of any team in the country since Kentucky's 38-0 team in 2015.
They have 16, 17?
Yeah, he acted like that was a complete lock no matter what, that they're the number 1 overall seed.
It should be.
Yeah.
They lost how many games? They lost to Duke. They lost to Florida. They lost
A&M and Alabama.
Texas A&M and Alabama. Yeah, I mean that's so the worst, quote, worst, end quote, team they lost to was Texas A&M, who's got a net of about 15
on the road
on senior night.
Yes. And yes, I agree in the stream. Texas Tech Ole Miss for the Sweet 16 would be a fascinating basketball game.
Whew. I don't. Wow. Yeah. Boy. I would simply say to my colleagues the day before that game, be careful. Have your question formulated and just ask it. Don't keep going. Just don't make a statement. Just ask a question. He's gonna be
ask a question.
He's gonna be a little high strung. All right, gonna be buzzing. He'll be respectful unless there's a reason that he doesn't have to be. At which point,
Big Ben makes a good point. He says that's why newspapers were so good for y'all. Whether your team won or lost, you still got the paper, and you didn't care if you skipped it. Now Ole Miss loses, and you avoid the pod and the board for a few days. It's true.
Oh, it's definitely true.
Paper came no matter what.
It's definitely true.
Mm-hmm.
It's a different world, man. I mean, it's no secret. I'm really good friends with Gabe DeArmond, who's now with 247. And Gabe is a big, big, big analytics person. And Missouri went from, oh my God, this team is a Sweet 16 lot with a chance to go to the Final Four, to the sky is falling.
Mm-hmm.
And like Ole Miss, most of their football recruiting is kind of portal driven. And unlike Ole Miss, no one cares about baseball there at all. I mean, he's got like 5 subscribers that care at all. And they get ridiculed for caring. And he was like, our numbers are down. I mean, he's like, just losing is like the worst thing for your traffic. And it's the part you can't control at all. It's fast. It's a fascinating new dynamic. But like I'm thinking about it. Like I went to the Thunder Nuggets game on Sunday, which was phenomenal. Thunder won, had a dominant fourth quarter, and I listened to a couple of podcasts about it yesterday. Last night, the Thunder played Denver and lost. Denver had a phenomenal fourth quarter. And other than me making sure that Jalen Williams' hip is intact, I probably won't listen to too much commentary about it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I'm immune to it. I don't have very high expectations for the Cubs. And so a podcast that I normally would listen to is now way down in my rotation.
Yeah. The way I'm reading it here, Lenardi has Duke as the fourth overall seed. Now he's doing it to put them. No, I'm wrong. He has a number 2 overall. I apologize. Yeah, my bad. He has Florida, the number 4 overall, number 1. He has it Auburn, Duke, Houston, Florida.
I think that's right.
Yeah, it's those 4.
So he's got Ole Miss as a 6 in
7 in Florida's region in Wichita.
See, there you
the
go.
West. San Francisco is the Sweet 16 location.
Wichita.
That is correct.
I wonder what there is to do in Wichita.
I don't know. Never been.
I've never been to Wichita. I've only been to Kansas once. This summer.
I don't know that I've been in Kansas.
I've been in Kansas, in the Kansas City portion of Kansas. The Kansas portion of Kansas City makes more sense.
Oh, well, yeah, sorry. I never mind. I have been to Kansas. Well, I've been through there going through. And I have not ever stopped, I don't think, in the state of Kansas.
The Kansas portion of Kansas City is incredibly nice. Mm-hmm. I couldn't get over how nice it was.
Stayed in 8. Let's see. Louisville a 7. Alabama a 2. I think that's all the SEC teams. Tennessee a 2.
Yeah.
Arkansas an 11.
That's about right.
BYU a 5. Georgia a 9.
Yep.
On the play-in, Oklahoma, Indiana in a play-in.
I'd watch.
Xavier, Ohio State a play-in. And he has Texas, the 3rd team out right now.
That would constitute massive failure on his part.
Oh, just awful.
Yeah.
Just awful. I mean, no. First 4 out for him: Boise State, North Carolina, Texas, Colorado State.
Okay.
Wake Forest in the next 4, so that's been a big change. ACC down to 3 bids as of this morning.
Again, if you look at the ACC, I won't bore people with it today. If you look at the ACC and look at quad 3 and quad 4 losses compared to the SEC, it's night and day.
It's mind-boggling is what it is. It's the difference.
It's a number that the committee simply can't avoid. I think I posted this on the site one day the other day where I was previewing something, and I just said the SEC is getting 13 to 14 bids. The metrics demand it. And when you look at the metrics, when you compare conferences, the metrics demand it. They demand it. I don't know how you could justify leaving both Oklahoma and Texas out of the tournament.
A little bit of news as we switch up a little bit here for a second. You've got Laramie Tunsil being dealt to the Washington Commanders yesterday. Tunsil part of a swap that included 4 picks going to Houston. For Tunsil, the 3rd and 7th rounders in 2025, 2nd and 4th rounders in 2026. And then I think Washington sent back a 5th round pick in either 2025 or 2026. I'm not sure which one, but nonetheless, Tunsil moving from a team that's been in the playoffs, but what certainly feels like more of a challenge to making a Super Bowl now in Washington in a positive way there for Laramie.
Yeah, I mean, they should learn from Cincinnati a couple years ago when Joe Burrow, very early in his career, took the Bengals to the Super Bowl, and there was this assumption that, hey, this is the wide open window, we'll be back, and then they haven't been back. And so, you've got Jaden Daniels, who was terrific, ironically, a second-year LSU quarterback, took his team to the precipice of the Super Bowl, and you should bolster his weapons and build around him now. Now is not the time to be conservative.
And yeah, I think Houston was very frustrated with Larry Smith's false starts in 2024. I think there was some disgruntlement that had come out of that, and Washington is gambling, expecting, thinking, whatever adjective you want to put on it, or verb you want to put on it. They think Huntsville's got at least 3 or 4 more good ones in him to help with Jaden Daniels and the start of the window for Washington that you saw last season. So DK Metcalf headed to the Steelers. Brian and I talked about that a good bit on Monday's show. Seattle has turned around now and signed Sam Darnold. So they've switched Geno Smith into Sam Darnold in Cincinnati.
So who's
Justin Fields?
Who's the quarterback going to be in Pittsburgh?
The odds, the favorite, if they don't do something where they start a rookie or something where unexpected, is Russell Wilson. They have Fields. They had Fields and Wilson. So it'd reunite DK with Russell. And Fields signed with the Jets yesterday. So he's out, and it looks, at this moment, unless they make a move, it's Russell Wilson, although he is also up for free agency.
So what is Aaron Rodgers going to do?
The rumor is potentially him in Pittsburgh.
Okay.
That's been a rumor as well. The message board this morning was discussing whether there was a possibility of them signing Rodgers and then drafting Dart to replace him, because the Steelers have been linked to Dart.
Well, that would make some sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Pittsburgh pairing DK with George Pickens, so we do get a pretty good 1-2 there in Pittsburgh.
Would be a busy wide receiver room. I guess most wide receiver rooms are.
Need a staff psychologist just for that situation.
That wide receiver, he's going to walk out a few times and go, "Hey, Mike, I need a minute. I know we have a meeting. I just need a minute."
They're saying on the stream that Schefter said this morning Rodgers to Pittsburgh was a definite possibility.
Oh,
so, okay.
How about that?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Did your Saints do anything?
Not that I've seen. I'm sure we paid $85 million to some seventh year tight end. Sounds awesome. Can't wait. No, I block it out, dude. I'm out right now. I'm not falling off the wagon, but for my own, I'm taking a personal day. Okay, like for my own sanity and health, we're just separating for a bit.
Yeah,
we're at that stage of the relationship where you go in the other room and go, just leave me alone. We're fine, but I need a minute. Okay, just need a minute.
I couldn't make myself pay attention to like what one of the Bengals beat writers was like. They're going to do a lot of stuff today, and I was like, yeah, whatever. And I never even checked. I never looked. I'm learning that I just don't have the capacity for that much. Like right now, I'm kind of locked in on the Thunder, and I don't really have a lot of time for anything else from a fan standpoint.
You can't care the same about a bunch of different teams emotionally.
No, I'm more concerned today for Jalen Williams' hip than I am literally anything in the world outside of my family. I need his hip.
The Bengals should be embarrassed in every way about what they did last season with the year Burrow had and what that looked like.
Dude, Jamar Chase had the triple-double. Or the triple crown, whatever they call it. Triple crown.
Yeah. Oh, catches, yards, touchdowns?
Yeah, and you don't make the playoffs?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, the Saints did re-sign Chase Young. I did see that.
Okay, there you go.
Done. Good. I did see that, yes. Yes, they need to tank and fix the cap over the next 2 to 3 years. That's what they need to do. You have a rookie head coach. You don't have a quarterback. You need to reset. And then you need to sign the right head coach next. after Kellen Moore leaves or gets
It's
fired or whatever the hell he
so
does.
hard to reset because it is so unpopular with the fan base. You have to be transparent. You have to be honest. I mean, I was in Oklahoma City and I was talking to some people there who know that organization really well. And they were talking about when the Thunder reset at the end of the, Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook era. They were internally said, hey, this is a small market and we can't take the fans for granted. We have to be honest with them about what this is going to look like, what it is that we're trying to do, how long it might take, and beg for their patience and beg for their support. And they did, and it worked. Now their attendance dropped, but at least people that were fans, season ticket holders, that kind of thing, felt like they had been informed. They felt like they were, okay, here's what we're doing. Here's why we're doing it, etc. And man, there's just so many organizations that don't possess that type of communicative ability, and they don't have the patience.
Yeah.
I mean, rebuilds are so tough because once you have a little success in the rebuild, everybody goes, go all in. Because that feels good, but it's not what you
Not
need
that simple.
It's not what you need to be doing. And so
No.
it's the reason that most organizations fail at tanking. Because the only way to tank is to go all in tanking. And it looks bad, you get criticized. Because you can't admit, you'll get fined if you admit, hey, look, dude, we're tanking.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're the Utah Jazz right now and you look at their injury report and it's like the whole roster, if anybody can play, they're out right now, they're tanking. Of course, they're trying to increase their chances of landing Cooper Flagg or Ace Bailey. But they can't say that out loud. And so you have to just take your beating and let it and in the NFL where the beating is magnified 100 times, it's really hard to do.
Yeah. A little bit of switch here for the final few
Like Allen, for
minutes.
example, and
Yeah, go
Allen's
ahead.
right. He says the OKC market is amazingly unique or extremely unique, I think he says. He's right. Theo Epstein did it in Chicago. Walked in, did it on the day after or the day of St. Louis winning the World Series and
Yeah.
said, quote, we're going to suck for a while. We're going to tear it down before we build it back up. In Chicago, that's not a unique market. That's a big market with a lot of media who are highly critical. It's a market where talk radio is still king, where you have newspaper columnists who still have voices. And in 2012, they definitely had voices. And he walked
To
in
get beaten up at first.
a little bit. He got real beat up about middle of 13 when it didn't look like it was working because there's no patience. I mean, it was the end of 2014 when some of the young players started to flash a little and people started talking about their farm system before anybody even remotely said, well, maybe. And then in 15, they came out of nowhere and made the playoffs. And then you know what happened the rest. But that's a 3-year beating that they took.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of criticism when they traded Ryan Dempster.
Ole Miss baseball is at South Alabama. That's a 4 o'clock start to today. Taylor Robb on the mound for Ole Miss for the second straight midweek start for him. I remember he had his first outing in almost 2 years at any level. Last week, he threw 18 pitches in 2 innings. I assume him to be on a pretty small pitch count again, but he will start there in Mobile before Ole Miss faces Arkansas on Friday. Friday to open league play. Ole Miss off to its best start since 2020. They've won 13 in a row. They are 14-1 overall at this point. They swept the homestand. They're over several weekends there after the trip to Arlington to start the season. Mike seemed a little concerned in some ways about no, they were busing the Mobile Jam. Just them looking ahead, he thought that they already had kind of turned attention to Arkansas. So he mentioned that multiple times over the course of the weekend. And he did not seem to think they were going to have their best effort in Mobile today. But we'll see as it gets here. And look, the league is a freaking bear in every way. There's a thread on the board it's a great thread talking about what's Ole Miss going to do and kind of where their issues are and what it looks like next to the league. And the answer is that we don't know because much like basketball, it's the best league in the country. Everybody's kind of played somebody for the most part, but it's not like this week in, week out, and what it could look like. Damn near everyone is ranked. I think 13 teams in the SEC are ranked, 12 or 13 in the top 25, something like that. It's going to be a challenge. I still think they're a 13, 14 win SEC team, something like that. That would get them back to the postseason, which again is the goal. Anything more than that is all the icing and the gravy and everything else. So that is where they are sitting right now. They need to return to the postseason, and that starts out with the first weekend of conference games, where every game, all 8 series, have at least one ranked team, and 1, 2, 3, 4 series are ranked versus ranked. Coming up this weekend, you've got Arkansas at Ole Miss, you have Kentucky at Georgia, you have Florida at Tennessee. It's a big one early. Texas at Mississippi State, Vanderbilt at Auburn, Oklahoma at South Carolina, and Missouri at LSU. Congratulations to the Tigers for their good start to the SEC campaign, drawing Mizzou there at home to begin. And that is, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 SEC teams ranked. 1, 17, 3, 5, 7, 2, 23, 14, 13, 22, 18, 12. I mean, it's all over the damn league. It's exactly what you would expect, and it's like any other sport when it comes to what the SEC is doing right now. So we'll see. But that is where they are. Again, Ole Miss, South Alabama, 4 o'clock today from Mobile. The first time they have been in Mobile since starting the 2009 season at South Alabama. They played a tournament there against Liberty, Mercer, and South Al. Drew Pomeranz was suspended that weekend for an off-season DUI, but they ended up winning the SEC. They tied LSU there 20-10 at the end of the 2009 season with a sweep of Arkansas. Neal and I were both in attendance for that at Baum Walker there to close the 2009 season. So
we were indeed. I remember that vaguely.
Yeah, we were there.
But I remember.
Arizona State, real quick. I thought this was just another example of what we're going to. I think that's the answer, is just where we are. They're another school that's come out and said that the athletic department does not have to break even in any capacity. That's not their goal anymore. They had to borrow $51.7 million from the university this year to break even as an athletic department for FY24. Their president said, "We've changed the model, making Sun Devil Athletics part of the core enterprise of ASU, a part of the university in the same way it is every other college and unit. It no longer operates as an auxiliary unit solely responsible for the financial issues associated with running 26 varied intercollegiate sports. The change allows the department to focus on its core function, the success and the competition." So, yeah, 144 million revenue, 144 million expenses, but 51.7 came from other areas and from the university to cover that debt. So,
I mean, I got thoughts.
It is what it is. Just saying.
There's no point. I do feel sorry for all of the students at ASU who aren't there at all because of athletics, and they're going to pay for this.
Well, they're getting charged. I mean, some of that was student fees.
I know. And there's a lot of kids at schools like Arizona State that will never go to a game. That's not why they're there. It's literally like you going to the grocery store and someone saying, "Hey, you're buying this salmon." I don't want salmon. I don't like salmon. You're buying it. Here, it's in your cart. You're paying for it. You'd raise hell. You'd say, "But I didn't want it."
Mm-hmm.
I know. I don't want this. We don't eat this.
Oh, well.
I don't know how to prepare it. It's going to go bad. I don't want it. Tough.
I'm sorry.
Tough.
And not even really, I'm sorry. Just what we have to do.
Not
Price
even.
of poker.
No, sorry. It's just, well, do it. Or you can leave the store. Go to a different store. Can't buy anything here unless you buy that. It's wrong. Stupid, but it is what it is.
Oh, goodness. Let's see. Wednesday,
I'm either really wrong or I'm really early. I'm one or the other. We'll find out. We'll find out over the course of time.
What's your goal on Wednesday? Kind of make the end of the Carolina-Arkansas game?
Yeah. I'm going to try to get there in time to be there for the end so that whoever wins, I can talk to 2 or 3 of them about Ole Miss. Mm-hmm. I'm sure I'll get something profound.
Yes.
I mean, because, look, if it's South Carolina, they're just going to be happy to still be around. And if it's Arkansas, the last time they played Ole Miss, it was early January.
Yeah.
They don't. I'm not sure that game.
Both teams have been through a lot since then.
Well, and that's probably what I would build a story around is Calipari saying there's really nothing you can draw from that game. Ole Miss is a different team than they were then. Mm-hmm. And Arkansas is a completely different team because that team was built around Boogie Fland, and he's not playing this weekend. I think he's trying to make a heroic comeback for next week is what I read, but he's not playing this week. So it's a totally different, Arkansas team than the one that Ole Miss beat in Fayetteville.
Yeah. Okay. We got Thursday, Ole Miss against either South Carolina or Arkansas. Again, coming up at noon from Nashville for that one. I don't think there's a show tomorrow, at least Blue Sky Live. I'm not sure what Brian's got planned. Might be other stuff on the network. And then likely something at some point on Thursday. But with them playing a noon game, not going to be first thing in the morning, that makes no sense because it's obsolete and outdated immediately after publishing there for that. So we'll keep you updated. We'll let you know what's going on. And we are in tournament season now, SEC, and then NCAA for Ole Miss. They are going to the big dance, but they get a stop in Nashville first. We'll see how long that lasts. So appreciate you guys this morning as always. Take care, and we will let you know, and we'll talk to you very soon.